Welcome back to the ACC, guys. It's the Picks Pod. I'm Mike. That's Steve.
That's me, the better one.
That's right. Exactly. I say all the bullshit. He actually does the research for it, so you know he's somewhat right. It's been pretty crazy. It's been pretty awesome. We got the Week 13 picks coming up. A lot of big matchups for the ACC. Important matchups for the ACC coming up this week. But before we get into that, what a wild weekend Week 12 was in college football.
Oh, man.
I mean, how just unravel that thing. Yeah, Michigan barely winning by a field goal. I mean, Ohio State looked like they were struggling for a minute there against Maryland. I mean, it's just, honestly, it was almost like the perfect storm to help out Clemson with getting back into at least getting into the conversation of the playoffs. It was insane. And let's not forget the biggest thing. South Carolina, Spencer Rattler for Heisman. I'm telling you.
Rattler.
I mean, he went off. He was throwing dimes. He actually looked like he deserved to be a 5-star coming out of high school. Haven't seen that since, watching QB1. But no, in all seriousness, like that was a crazy, that I wasn't expecting Tennessee to lose like that. And on top of that, you lose Hendon Hooker. So Tennessee's out. And USC does pull out a win, though. So now they're number 4 looking in.
Here soon they're about to release it. So while we're doing this podcast, they're about to release the poll. So we'll find out not long from now when they release it, where the new rankings and where everybody falls. I can't wait because I really want to see where FSU falls in these new polls because we keep creeping up. And, man, we keep creeping up. Who knows? If FSU can beat up on the Gators impressively and then certain things go their way with people in front of them and then they go to a big bowl game and beat somebody that's ahead of them, they could possibly finish this year in the top 10 of the rankings. And at the beginning of the year, no one would have thought FSU could do that. And if FSU could do that and finish that strong, these flips that we're starting to see from Florida State getting, it could get crazier, and it could be a fun recruiting coverage. I cannot wait until we start diving into recruiting because it's already starting to get exciting. And once this season ends, it's really gonna get good.
Yeah. With that, I mean, just speaking of recruiting, huge flip for the ACC, especially for Florida State. Brock Glenn flips from Ohio State to Florida State.
Yep.
That's a huge change. And really shows what's going on. It might be pretty competitive conference in the future. Clemson can keep it up, and Florida State start building up again. We might be having some fun.
And honestly, rough draft of recruiting. I haven't dove in completely in the numbers, but just rough draft looking at it. There's a possibility for 4 to 5 ACC teams to finish in the top 15 in recruiting.
Yeah.
And so with that being a possibility, this could be a strong finish for the ACC. If they can wrap it up in recruiting to get that many teams up there will be huge. Honestly, if Miami has a huge turnover that they could have, and they have a bunch of guys into the portal, remember this whole new rule change that you don't have to stop at, the 25 scholarships. You can keep offering as long as you don't fill up your 85-man roster.
Yeah.
So this could be huge. If Miami loses 15 or more guys and they could go out and get that many in this recruiting class, by default, just by picking up a lot of players, the way those rankings work, it's going to boost them towards the top. They might end up being the top class because they'll end up with 35, 40 commitments.
Yeah. I mean, just numbers alone are going to get that. And I mean, like I said, it was just a crazy weekend of college football. Tennessee's out. Now you have, honestly, it feels like this Michigan-Ohio State matchup is more important than ever before because I don't know, out of whichever team loses that game, I don't know if that other team makes it back into the conversation of being in the playoff.
Well, I can easily answer that for you. If it's Michigan, no. If Michigan loses, they have the worst strength of schedule out of anybody else we're talking about going to the playoffs. So they're eliminated. They're done.
Yeah.
But as much fun as it is to talk about these scenarios, let's get into this weekend because right now I'm sitting at 22-10 against the spread, and I'm sitting at 23-9 on straight picks. Man, I'm feeling it. I've been doing good. I've been on a roll this year, so I want to see how I can finish it up with these ACC games this weekend. I only got 8 games because they did cancel the Virginia Tech game, and in honor of the players whose lives were lost, I respect that decision. And it is something that, if you don't feel like you can respectfully do something that would honor them by playing that game, then it is best for the university and for the program to just go ahead and end this year. Neither Virginia or Virginia Tech are eligible for a bowl game, so it is a situation where for Virginia, that gives them a good chance to recoup and just go into next year, give them time to just everyone to heal. From the shooting and the tragic event that took place. Yeah, and sometimes it's bigger than the game, right? And the game's not everything. Sometimes it's best not to have it. Football can heal, but it can also cause much unnecessary stress. So it's nice to see both teams agreed to it. They decided to cancel it, and just give them the time. It's not going to affect anything for those teams. Neither one of them was going to come close to making a bowl. So it is important. Get those players time. That's something very difficult to go through. Just dealing with loss period, and the amount having that camaraderie and brotherhood and everything else. You're around these guys all the time, so it kind of makes sense. But let's go ahead and get into the picks. We're starting off on Friday at 3:30 p.m. We have NC State versus North Carolina. And at first, I was going to say, you know what? NC State struggling on offense. North Carolina's offense is just too... Drake May is just having the year of his life. Oh man, this isn't going to happen. But then after seeing what Georgia Tech did, and knowing that NC State's defense is definitely better than Georgia Tech's defense. Yes. And just hands down. If they can replicate that, if they can slow down this North Carolina offense. Now, granted, it wasn't all Georgia Tech's defense. I think they messed with Drake May a lot and made him look more like a freshman because he's only a redshirt freshman, right? But there was also some big plays. I mean, you look at the end of the game. Their chance to actually win it. I seal it. I mean, Josh Downs wide open, going into the end zone that just sums up how that game went. I'm about to say NC State needed some help. I'm sorry, North Carolina needed some help. I mean, you're not going to expect that situation where North Carolina, you're going to have Downs drop a wide open pass. Yeah, that's not going to happen all the time. And but this is the great thing is this is a rivalry game. And yes, NC State's coming in. Morse still questionable. That's another one of those things. Is does Morse play or does he not play? If Morse plays, I think NC State covers this game, with it being a 6.5 point spread. But without him playing, Finley's been playing good. He played good against Louisville, and I was impressed by the way he played against Louisville. But if I have to go ahead and pick this game, it's so hard because I sit there and I was going back and forth on it. Yeah. And honestly, I was I still think just because of North Carolina's defense, it's not a great defense. NC State doesn't run the ball well, but I think it's a bad defense. You can always run the ball. Yeah. And Finley looked good throwing the ball. I mean, in the game last week, he got the ball down the field. So... And that was against a tough Louisville defense. North Carolina's defense isn't tough. So if Finley can get the time to throw like he did, like he couldn't get against Louisville, he showed the ability to get the ball down the field and make some plays. So even if Morris doesn't play, I think NC State makes this game close. It's going to be a close game. They cover the 6.5. I don't think they win the game, though. I think North Carolina wins, and North Carolina wins the way they won most of their games. It's going to be close. They win it probably by a field goal. Yeah. It's going to come down to, them probably scoring a late touchdown or them just hanging on because NC State misses a field goal or something. But it's going to be a close game. I just don't think that North Carolina can cover the 6.5. They've had issues covering all year. I just don't think they can cover that. And more importantly, though, I think they still at least get the win, which is good for North Carolina. Finish up this season strong. Now go into the ACC title game and play Clemson. and which helps Clemson. Clemson doesn't want them to lose this game. They lose this game, it really hurts. Clemson.
You definitely want an 8-win North Carolina team going into this game, like going into the ACC championship, makes it look a lot better. And plus, it's a good defense. This is a chance for Drake May to turn it back around, to change the conversation, because other Heisman candidates didn't have a great day either on this past Saturday. I mean, everybody just looked meh. So, yeah, he didn't throw a single touchdown pass. He got harassed by Georgia Tech's defense quite a bit. But if you can turn it around and actually show some offense and really move that ball against NC State's defense, like, that could help you. I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen. I mean, it could have just been a down game for the wide receivers with North Carolina because they were struggling. So my pick for the game is going to be North Carolina as well. And I think, I'm going to shoot for it. I think North Carolina covers. I think a touchdown does decide this game either way. So I think North Carolina can cover the 6.5.
You need some help catching me anyway, so.
yeah, right. I got a later start, okay? Last week was a great week. I had a bear week. So,
but, and that brings us to our next matchup, which, all bias aside, still, it is our team. And it does excite us to talk about the fact that Florida State, Florida rivalry, here we go. Both teams not actually playing each other just to get into a bowl game because, we're both not playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Florida's not playing great. They're coming off a loss to Vandy.
Yeah.
And they are the worst team in the country on rush defense. Well, sorry, not the worst. They did improve a little, so they're one of the worst. They're still in the 120s. They are the worst team in the country, though, at third down percentage. I mean, they let their defense lets just almost anybody complete on third down, which is not good going against a team that you're going against an FSU team that averages 51% completion rate on third down. So this is an FSU team that's been getting better. We've talked about it in the Power Rankings a lot. And that's one of the things we talk about a lot in the Power Rankings is we talk about the fact that Florida State's the most balanced team in the ACC. That's why they keep moving up in the rankings. That's why they're solid number 2. And they're there for that main reason is their offense, passing and running the ball, has been so balanced. And their defense is starting to play great. This is an FSU team that at all phases of the game should outplay Florida. They're favored by 9.5. And this is a situation where I've taken FSU to cover. I'm taking the 9.5, and I'm taking FSU to win because, hands down, we should cover this. We should run the ball down their throat. Like I said, they're bad at running the ball. They're bad at protecting their quarterback too. I forgot to mention that. We just come after. We're going to come after a quarterback. So I mean, there's no good stats for Florida here.
I mean, my take on the game is. This is definitely, I agree that it is a game that Florida State should win and should cover with. And I really want to go with that. But there's one issue that has existed with Florida State's defense, and that's running quarterbacks. This is probably the most physical, most athletic running quarterback that they've gone against all season. And we have seen some issues. We've talked about it, and I'm sure other people have seen it. The defensive ends at Florida State don't do very good contain, which is part of the reason why they struggle so badly. Yep. And this is a physical quarterback you're going against. And it's a rivalry game. With that being said, Florida's defense doesn't look like they're stopping much. And there is a way to get around that. If you, look at the Vandy game last week against Florida, Vanderbilt was like, hey, throw against us. Just please, throw against us. They threw everything into the box to prevent them from running. And you know what? It hurt Florida's offense badly. Now, granted, Vanderbilt did need help with their long snapper scoring a touchdown on a muff punt, but it just there were some things that went their way, but that's how they stopped that Florida offense. So even though it may sound like I'm going to pick Florida to cover, I'm not picking Florida to cover. Florida State's going to win. Florida State's going to cover the 9.5. I wouldn't be surprised if Florida State wins this by 3 scores. not like a full 21.
I also would be surprised if FSU wins it by 10 and we barely hit the cover.
yeah, like barely hit the cover. Yeah. So moving on, we have another ACC SEC matchup. One team coming off of just a phenomenal stomping of a team that had high hopes coming into the season. And I'm not talking about Clemson beating Miami. I'm talking about South Carolina just putting it on Tennessee. I mean, what was it, 63 points in the end?
I stopped watching after he got the 50s.
Yeah.
And then Hooker got hurt. Once he got hurt, I was like, okay, no point watching this one anymore.
Yeah, and mind you, if you're hearing that Hendon Hooker got hurt, he got hurt in the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So it's not like he wasn't there for a majority of the game. That's how South Carolina ran the score up. South Carolina was already up by 2+ scores, and he got hurt. That's just like an insult to injury.
I think it was actually 3 scores before he got hurt even.
I think it was still 2. I think they just scored.
No, I think they went up by 3 scores at one point.
Oh, okay.
Before he got hurt, it was earlier on, but that was part of before he got hurt. So I mean, definitely his injury wasn't a key factor. Well, the key factor for South Carolina is this is a team that they've given up. They give up about 240 yards on the ground. Last couple of times they've played some teams, so they're not a good team against the run, and. So they're a team that they struggle with it. So going into that game, that's what Tennessee should have done, is attack their defense. And they didn't. Tennessee tried to stick to what they do, and South Carolina matched them with it and beat them. So this is a situation where going against Clemson, though, it's going to differ from beast. Can South Carolina pull the back-to-back upsets, knock off 2 teams going to the playoffs to finish their season? That would be huge for them. But, it's a tough one. Clemson's favored by 14. And honestly, I think Clemson has the team to win this game. But man, that spread. It's so hard for me. But, I'm taking Clemson on the... I'm sorry, it's a 14.5 point spread. And I'm taking Clemson to cover the 14.5 and win the game. I think... South Carolina-Tennessee game was a little bit of, an illusion to what South Carolina really is. I know it's a rivalry game, and DJ hasn't looked great, but like I said, one thing South Carolina does is worse than Florida even when it comes to rush defense. Mm-hmm. And I think that Clemson will give them a heavy dose of Shipley. And that's what they love to do. And DJ. They'll run DJ too. And when they're doing that, they're hard to beat. They can run up the score on you quick because they are not scared to just run the ball at you. And if you're going to give it to them, they're going to take it. So I think that'll be the key in that game. I think Clemson wins this one going away. They're going to pick that up easy.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I'm going to go ahead and agree on you on that. I'm not even going to try and pepper it or anything. Look, it was a good win for South Carolina at home. But they're just not going to beat Clemson. Like you said, they give up too many rushing yards. And Clemson, that's probably one of the most solid things they have. I mean, when we talk about Clemson's offense, one of the things I like to mention, not much at wide receiver in a sense of just nobody's stepped up at wide receiver yet. You still got DJ, and they've started running DJ more and more, especially on like short yardage situations. They're running him more and more, and that's just going to tear down that South Carolina defense. And on top of that, Spencer Rattler played the game of his life. And I don't see him repeating that. Not against his Clemson defense. That Clemson defense, this is like night and day. Okay, you just went up against Tennessee defense that actually had injuries, so it was even worse than before. Like Tennessee has North Carolina syndrome right now.
Yes.
Like it is just not a good defense. They're not stopping anybody, so their offense has to score. Clemson depends on their defense to stop people because their offense can barely score.
They do.
But even then, they can still put up the points necessary. So, yeah, Clemson covers. Clemson wins, and the SEC starts it off being 0-2 against the ACC. I like that. Now the next game, the next 12 o'clock game, this might be a different story, okay? We have Georgia Tech versus Georgia, and Georgia is a 35.5 point favorite to a 36.5 point, depending on where you look at. We'll go with the 35.5 point favorite. Yes, Georgia Tech, you just got a massive win against North Carolina. Definitely a better offense than what you're going to face with Georgia. But Georgia they got them dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like, they got them dogs on defense. Just to take that from a few people. Yeah, no pun intended. But I mean, it's true. They're just a good defense. They play solid football all the way around. Georgia's probably been the most complete team throughout the entire season. Now, I know they struggled against Kentucky, but
they struggled in a couple games.
Yeah, they struggled in a couple of games. Stetson Bennett looked like the Stetson Bennett that we've seen in the past. He didn't look like Stetson Bennett started out this season. It looked like a pretty good quarterback. Surprised me. I was like, this man's going to prove me wrong this year. But he's taken a step back in recent weeks. I think a lot of teams are starting to figure it out that, those tight ends are really important to that offense. So it's curious to see. Like, Georgia Tech came in with a good plan against North Carolina. They might come in with another good plan here. So, surprise, surprise, I'm picking Georgia Tech to cover, not to win. Georgia's still going to win the game. I think Georgia Tech can cover 35.5. I think they can do it.
I agree. I think it's just too much of a spread for Georgia.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Georgia Tech to cover as well. I think it's a late cover. It's one of those situations where, this game will be closer than people think. And main reason why is, like you said, Georgia Tech's coming off not just that upset of North Carolina. Their defense coordinator had an amazing game plan, and his stunts that he ran is what confused and made Drake May be frustrated all game long. He constantly ran those stunts, and it came from different directions. Never came from the same place. At one point, I remember seeing the defensive tackle on this side loop all the way around, and the defensive end crashed down, and the other defensive tackle loop this way, and that was the stunt they ran, and the dude come all the way around the outside and got pressure from Drake May from behind. I mean, it was just stuff like that. Georgia Tech defensive coordinator had an amazing game plan, and he just kept confusing Drake May because it was never the same stunt. It was like he called every stunt you could possibly call in football in one game, and he maybe even created a few more. He did everything he could, threw everything at him but the kitchen sink, and it was a great game. And I think that Georgia has its vulnerabilities, and the reason why is their receivers don't win battles. And something that Georgia Tech did in this game is they played a lot of one-on-one, including one-on-one with downs sometimes, and they were winning it. Yeah. And so their corners can play good enough to play one-on-one. Here's my thing. The way you beat Georgia, or a way you keep Georgia close, is you have to be able to double-team their tight ends, because those are their weapons. Yeah. Make the receivers beat you one-on-one. And if you do that, they might have a shot. That's why I think they cover, because their defensive coordinator is really good. Georgia Tech, if you watch them this year, their defensive coordinator comes up with great game plans. Unfortunately, they're just not the team that can execute it all the way. And, even the Clemson game, you look at it before Sims got hurt, up until the third quarter when Clemson just started blowing that game out, they were there. They had a shot. And the defensive coordinator had a good game play that confused DJ. So, not that it's that hard, but at the same time, their defensive coordinator has shown all year that he has that ability to confuse people and frustrate people. And I think that he can do that with Stetson Bennett and this Georgia offense, which has shown kinks in the armor this year. Everybody says that they're the most complete team, but I still feel like this is not. There's no team to me in college football that is the team that you can just hang your hat on and be like, they're going to win it all. And actually be confident. Even Georgia, I'm not confident that Georgia could, because like I said, that's the weaknesses I've seen. And teams that have done that against Georgia, they're not even that good. Missouri, they did that against Georgia. They doubled the tight ends. They left the receivers one-on-one, and they won the battles. And they ended up all keeping that game closer where it was, and almost pulled a huge upset. So if they could do it, Georgia Tech definitely could execute it. Like I said, Georgia wins the game, but I still think that's just way too many points. Yeah, I'm taking them to cover, because it's one of those things like Georgia's in the playoffs no matter what. They don't have to win pretty to get in. They're in.
No, you just gotta. All they gotta do is win it. And so, with that being said, before we move on to the next couple of matchups, we're kind of like halfway through on our picks. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, and don't forget to leave a comment, because that's always fun too. Okay. And you made it this far, you better keep on watching, because there's more to come, okay? And if you're listening to us in a podcast as well, please leave that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a comment. Leave us your comment on the game. And give us your own pick. That'd be pretty fun, right? Yeah. I like it. Works for me. And if you're on any other podcast, please still leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. At least for the most part. Okay? We'll even take troll comments at this point. Not really. So, yeah. But moving back into the picks.
Don't challenge Eon.
That's right, yeah. So moving back into the picks, we have Louisville versus Kentucky. And this might be an interesting matchup. And I think Vegas kind of thinks the same thing.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like it's a 2.5 point spread, which
this is a game where at this point the season hasn't went for one team the way they hoped it would.
Yeah.
Kentucky, their season is just not going the way they thought it was going to go. And then for Louisville, due to injuries, it probably hasn't went the way Louisville fans thought it should have went. But at the same time, they actually have played really well. We talked about in our power rankings. They're number 3 in our power rankings we did.
Yeah.
And they're solid number 3. They've been there for a while. And they're doing it mostly because of their defense. And that's something big for this game. Kentucky has struggled over the last couple games protecting the quarterback. And Louisville, at one point, led the nation in sacks. And they're going to come after Kentucky. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on the Kentucky quarterback, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kentucky. It's going to be hard for them to run the ball. Like I said, passing is really going to be a timing issue thing for them. And on top of that is Kentucky themselves, they don't run the ball extremely well. So there is something that, and they don't play as strong a defense as what you're used to seeing an SEC team play against the run. And that's Louisville's strength. Louisville loves to run the ball. So honestly, when I saw the spread and saw it was plus 3.5 Louisville, I can't help it. I sat there and said, I'm jumping on that. I'm taking Louisville in a rivalry plus 3.5 because they should feel like they're the better team coming into this game.
Oh, yeah.
But it is a rivalry game, and it's going to be close, and there's going to be emotions involved. So that's the things you can't take into effect. We could go to the stats all day. The stats say Louisville's going to win this game, and they'll easily cover. So that's what I'm going to go with. But at the end of the day, it is a rivalry game. This is a chance for Kentucky to bounce back from how their season's starting to fall here at the end and get a solid win against your rival.
Yeah, no, I mean, you just played a tough game against Georgia. I mean, they were kind of in that game score-wise. I don't think Georgia was ever going to lose that game.
No.
But I mean, Kentucky had a chance at some point to make something miracle happen. I mean, Levis is a NFL build for a quarterback. I just don't think he's played that way yet, in my opinion, for Kentucky. I just think Louisville's defense is too much for Kentucky. And honestly, I don't see the reasoning behind them being favored. I think what that probably is coming into is, Cunningham might not be playing. And that's a huge difference for me with Louisville. But I'm still going to take the chance. I still think that Louisville defense is going to get after it. They're probably going to cause some turnovers. And you know what? Even a backup, given the right kind of field position, is going to be able to get you in position to score points and win the game. Okay. And I think Louisville is they're playing really good football right now. And Kentucky just isn't. Kentucky has not shown me anything this entire season that makes me think that they can win this game. And Louisville's going to cover. Louisville's going to win. And the ACC is going to be 3-1 against the SEC. Possibly even 4. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be possibly 4-0. Georgia Tech's not winning. But
hey, the way this college football season went, I've seen crazier things.
Yeah.
But will it happen? No,
probably not. Yeah. So
if it does, that defensive coordinator for Georgia Tech will instantly Because if they do that, it would be because of him.
Yeah, he's getting
Instantly give that man the award for top assistant in college football. Like, don't even vote. Don't even vote at that point. Just walk the trophy to the guy and be like, you earned this.
Yeah. I think Kirby Smart's gonna walk across the field and start offering him some money. Like,
exactly.
Come to me.
He'll try and hire him.
Just it's not that many miles from Atlanta. Okay, let's come over to Athens.
Let's go ahead and go to the next matchup, though. Getting away from some of the rivalries outside the conference, we'll go back to another rivalry inside the conference.
Yeah,
which is the 3:30 matchup between Wake and Duke. And this game actually has some big implications. There's some big storylines going in this game. Wake's favored by 3.5, and the storylines for this game is that Sam Hartman needs 5 touchdowns to break the ACC record for touchdowns, and so passing touchdowns. So he could be the leader by the time everything's all said and done. He could be the leader in the ACC historically. But that's a tough test to ask against a Duke defense that's going to get after them. Yeah. So this is going to be a fun game. It's a good chance for Duke to finish strong. And Mike Elko is going to have these guys ready, especially after that Pitt debacle. I mean, it was on the road. It was a tough game. Yeah. They got the turnovers. They just didn't score off those turnovers to beat Pitt. And that was the problem in that game. Even though the finish still was crazy. I mean, at one point it's 4th and goal from the 18, and they somehow hit a wide open receiver, and somehow Pitt forgets to cover somebody on 4th and goal for the 18 at the end of the game.
That's Pitt. That's Pitt defense, though. We'll get to them shortly.
But like I said, with Duke, though, they still played a good game. They're still in it, and honestly, I like Duke at home, so I'm gonna take Duke plus the 3.5. And I'm going to take Duke to win this game. So I'm taking another dog to win. I'm going to take Duke to upset Sam Hartman and to end off his season, but end strong for Duke.
You stole my thunder. You know that, right? Like this was going to be my game where I was just like, I'm throwing it out there. This is the crazy pick for the day. And you're like, no. I will take the extra loss in my picks just to make sure you don't get this one on me, because I think it can happen. I'm not sure. Like, I gave Wake Forest defense props in the power rankings, but I'm not sure if they can stop Riley Leonard. I don't think they can do to Riley Leonard what Pitt did, and he still put up points. And he did over 200 passing yards against Duke's defense,
and there were some drop passes for that game too.
Yeah, so he's developing each week, and honestly, Mike Elko, I think he can come out with a defensive plan, because we've been shown multiple times this year that if you play a certain way, if you can execute a certain defense against Sam Hartman and frustrate him, he will make mistakes. He will throw picks. And I don't think that's completely out of the way. I think if you can frustrate him early and put him back in that mindset, he gets frustrated easily and he starts making more and more mistakes. And I think that's the key to Duke. I think you get after it. And I think Riley Leonard keeps it on the ground, so you don't have to worry about it. You can control the game. And I like it. Duke, I like it. I think you can take this and win it.
So bonus pick. Over or under on Sam Hartman getting his 4 touchdowns in this game.
I thought it was 5.
Well, he needs 5 to break the record, but I'm just going to give you over under a 4. Meaning that if he gets over his 4, he breaks the record. So if he's under it, he doesn't.
So you want like 3.5, or you want like 4.5?
No, I'm saying the over-under is 4.
Okay.
So either he breaks the record or he doesn't break the record. What do you think?
But he could push it for.
He could push it.
Anyways, semantics.
But he, but the push doesn't win him. Doesn't
win it for him. Okay, I got you. I don't think that's a tough one, because I don't know if you can keep him from scoring 4 touchdowns, but I mean, it's possible. I don't think they've been held to less than 4 touchdowns this year, have they?
He's had a couple rough games.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because it could be, his running backs could end up punching it in.
It's true. It's true. You know what? I think he can still get the over, but I think Duke can. Well, actually, if Duke's going to win this game, he has to be under. So if I'm calling Duke to win, then he's going to have to be under that amount. And it's possible. I mean, with Leonard controlling the game, if Duke can run the ball with Leonard and control the game, then he's not going to have as many times to do that. But then again, it's an explosive Wake offense, so it generally just takes a single play for him to score. So we'll see what happens. But right, I'll take the under.
Since you took the under, and it's a bonus, it doesn't go against my spreads, so I'll go ahead and I'll play devil's advocate. I'll go for the over because honestly, at the end of the day, I think it'll end up being a push. Yeah. I think he'll hit 4 and just basically tie the record and not beat it. So I'll take the over, and maybe he gets that one extra touchdown pass and he breaks the record. But I still think Duke wins the game. So it's one of those things where, unfortunately, not so fast. Duke's got you here. They're going to play better defense, and they're going to run the ball, control the clock, and that's the things that frustrated Wake down the stretch. They played a banged-up Syracuse team. Is the only reason why they came back in that second half. You fall down to Duke with that much, Duke's going to blow you out. So that's another thing for Wake. So just not enough faith in Wake.
Yeah. See, I thought you were going to softball it for me and ask if I'd take the over-under at 67. I was like, I'm definitely taking the under because I picked Duke to win. But next game on the slate, we actually have Syracuse and Boston College. Now, you pay attention to our power rankings. These are two of the bottom teams. Definitely the two bottom teams in the Atlantic. Syracuse started off hot. They were playing really good football. They were looking like they were going to be a team to compete, if not win the Atlantic with the way they were playing. But injuries got in the way, which is affecting depth, and they have not found a rhythm. It looked like they were going to do it against Wake last week, and it just fell apart. This is your chance with Boston College, right? You're a 10.5, or is it 9.5?
It's 9.5.
9.5 point favorite. So I think you can cover that. You should. If, Schrader's looking a lot healthier now. This is a Boston College defense that really isn't going to do a whole lot. And offensively, they could do some things, but I think Syracuse has the defense early on to give them that. So I will pick Syracuse to cover and win this game.
Well, Syracuse, like I said, started the season 6-0. And things were rolling for them. And then the injury bug started hitting after they had some close losses. Yeah. They played some good, tough games. They were physical, and it took its toll on them. And now they're sitting with so many injuries that, like I said, Wake, that's why they pulled that game off last week, because they just wore them down towards the end. Yeah. So it's one of those situations where because of that, they started 6-5. Looks like they're going to finish 6-6 as if they lose this game, but I'm not taking them to lose. I'm not going to take them to lose. I'm taking Boston College to cover, though. I think Boston College will cover the 9.5. Moorhead has shown that, if they're not playing Notre Dame or a team that will really go after him, he could get the ball down the field. And all the injuries Syracuse has in their secondary, Flowers and Reed, they're gonna have a big day. So he's got the receivers that can get the ball downfield for him. Boston College will keep this game close, especially in the fourth quarter. They might even pull the upset. I'm not going to pull the trigger on it and call the upset for them, but they might just pull the upset for them because this is their bowl game. They don't have another game after this. So, but I'm just going to take Syracuse to still win the game. I think Syracuse holds on. They get that big win to stop the bleeding going into their bowl game. So they can at least be 7-5, head into a bowl game, and build from there. I mean, with all the injuries they have, that's the best you can hope for if you're Syracuse. And hopefully they get a favorable matchup in a bowl game, because honestly, with all the injuries they have, it's they're not going to match up well with any other team. There's a lot of teams that it's just going to be a matchup nightmare for them.
Yeah. And we may be doing some bowl predictions, so we'll wait on that one. But we have our final one here, and you want to talk about upset alert. I'm joking. I'm not even going to get into that right now. But we have Pitt versus Miami. Pitt is favored by 6.5. And honestly, from what I've seen from Miami, it looked like Miami was going to try and gain some life against Clemson and Clemson instantly shut it down. You get multiple turnovers, and you don't really do much with it either. What was it, 3 turnovers and only got a single touchdown off of it, I think, is what happened with Miami.
Yeah, 3 turnovers, 7 points.
Yeah, 7 points. Like, that just, you can't keep playing ball like that. And Miami is struggling really bad right now. Pitt is playing a little bit above expectation of what we were thinking. That defense for Pitt is going to get after it. They're going to give Brown a hard time. Or if they play Garcia, they're going to give him a hard time. And you just don't, like, outside of Restrepo, there's really no one at wide receiver that is going to step up. And Restrepo disappears at times, mainly because he's that only one that steps up a lot, so he gets focused on a lot more. And, well, even if he's wide open, your quarterback has to hit him. And they missed that a few times, too. And, I mean, Miami still has a good defense. I think they can get after Pitt. But, I mean, it's going to be a hard-fought game. And I think I've kind of talked myself into Miami could possibly cover this. Because Pitt didn't put away Duke either when they should have.
Yes.
So, I think Miami can cover the 6.5. But I think Pitt wins this game. And Pitt might be in charge of the game the entire time. It'll just be close at the end.
I've went back and forth on this game. It's fitting that it's the last game that I did in my picks, too, because it's the 8 o'clock primetime game. So, it was the last one I got to. Most of the other games I'm pretty solid with. I feel like the statistics don't lie. They point to one team in most of these matchups. And because of that, like, this matchup, though, is just so close. And it's a rivalry game. A lot of people forget how much of a rival Miami and Pitt are to each other. And like you said, at home, Pitt didn't seal the deal against Duke. They had plenty of opportunities. And remember, they threw a lot of turnovers. Duke could have won that game. It's the same scenario as Miami. Duke got 3 turnovers from Pitt in a row. Didn't even get a field goal. Yeah. So that's crucial. Like, so in that situation, like, yes, the Pitt defense played great, but at the same time, Miami's going to get people open. There was receivers that just weren't getting open for Duke, but Miami has some receivers that can get open. Yeah. So at that point, at first I was leaning more towards Pitt, but you know what? I want to take Miami to upset Pitt. They're not just going to cover the 6.5. Miami's going to win the game, and they're going to get bowl eligible. They'll be 6-6. They get to go to a bowl. They gave up their bowl last year. Remember the Manning and COVID? They gave it up. So this is a team that they, with their new coach, they'll decide if they want to accept the bowl offer or not. But I see Miami winning this game and getting bowl eligible, and giving the ACC another team to put in the bowls. Yeah. And as you mentioned, this is a rivalry that goes back into the Big East. I mean, there's 2 teams that, when it was the Big East, they battled it out quite a bit. So that's where some of the roots for that comes from. It's nice to see it on this weekend, which Miami hasn't done very good against rivals so far this year. But it will be nice to see. Wait, is Middle Tennessee State a rival? I think so, yeah. They are now. No, the stands weren't full enough for that game to be a rivalry game. But going back to that game, though, Ja'Cory Brown, he has played better when stepping in for Miami. I don't think he's their answer at quarterback, but at the same time, he's not making the mistakes that Van Dyke and Garcia made, and that's a big improvement. I mean, just don't throw 2 or 3 picks, and guess what? Miami has a chance to win some of these games. So and I don't think that's so much of a knock on Van Dyke. I think Van Dyke's just been beat up so much this year. Like, I still go back to that Florida State game. I don't know if maybe this is a discussion for a off-season discussion, but I kind of feel like the Florida State game, that's on the coaches. He should have never played that game. You risked Van Dyke's career by having him play in that game. You could tell that kid was not ready to play. He could barely lift his arm at times, and you're still having him do plays. Like, I get it, these kids are going to tell you they're okay when they're not, and they're not kids, they're young men. But, these young men, they're going to tell you they're okay. Anybody's going to tell you that. They want to play. Yeah. And this is an important game. And he's a good leader. He's a good quarterback.
But you got to pay attention to that. Someone on your staff has got to say, look, he's not ready. He doesn't have that full motion.
Yeah, and that would be something we'll discuss going in the offseason.
Yeah.
You already know my feelings about the coaching staff in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
I think, yes, Cristobal is a great recruiter, but Cristobal's track record has also shown that he does not know how to make adjustments well in games. And unless he has an amazing staff that can do that for him, they're going to struggle. They're going to get the good talent in, but you're not going to win those matchups against bigger teams. And the best example I can give people is, you want to see that as a Miami fan, you don't believe me, go back and watch Oregon versus Utah last year. All right? Yes, they got dismantled by that Utah team. They turned around and played that same Utah team 2 weeks later. No change. The game almost played out the same exact way. No adjustments, no changes. They ran pretty much the same things, and guess what happened? Utah dismantled them the same way they did the first time they played.
I was say Utah didn't even change their game plan.
Exactly.
They didn't have to.
And they didn't change a thing because Oregon didn't change a thing. So they're like, okay, well, don't even got to change the game plan because they didn't change anything.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, when bowl games are done and championships are all done and everything else, well, we're going to go back, we're going to review the season, and we're going to talk about each of the teams and kind of break them down, see where they were, see what we expect in the future. We're going to talk about the recruiting as well. We have an entire offseason to talk football. It's going to be great.
Oh, yeah. And as much as people want to talk about success, you want to talk about success of a guy, you have to also accept the failures. And not only you bring up the Tyler Van Dyke thing, not only was that a bad move in game, probably cost them Rashada. Rashada probably saw that. Remember, he flipped the very next week. Do you think he flipped because of the way the game went? Or did he flip because he saw the way the quarterbacks were handled in the game?
Yeah.
He didn't like the constant switching back and forth. And that was something that deterred him from being like, I don't want to be in a situation like that at quarterback.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of decisions that are important for recruiting. Something you call in a game could decide a recruit that you're going to get.
Yeah. And
that's another factor. So that's why, as we discuss recruiting, we'll talk about things like that.
Yeah, we'll unveil. We'll dig deep down into there. We'll give you that full fill because we'll have a full off season. We'll have a full season next year. Nothing but the ACC, guys. A little bit of jolly to make your day. So we're actually going to do our bowl predictions as well. But go ahead and take a moment and check us out on Twitter. We cover a lot of the games, especially on the Saturdays. We'll do a review of the day or games that's happened throughout the week while the primetime game is on. Now, here lately, the game's been pretty much over with by the time we jump on and do our Twitter space. But we do cover it on there. We do a couple of spaces each week. Steve's very active getting stuff up there. You can check it out at ACC guys.
Jolly ACC, and then of course the at DA ACC guys.
Okay.
Which when you pull us up, our handle is the ACC guys.
ACC guys, yeah.
So check us out on Twitter, and we'll continue to give you guys up-to-date scores of the ACC games. We're trying to keep that discussions going during the games, and we're going to eventually start doing some instant reactions to games as well.
Yeah.
If it's not both of us together, then it'll be one of us, or both of us just doing individually on our Twitters, doing some quick reactions. I mean, those would be great. Great little ways to just keep you guys informed of what we're thinking, how, and then maybe get some quick opinions on what y'all are thinking as far as the games. But definitely, you're right. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that like button and follow us for more content as we continue to provide you guys with some of the best news in the ACC.
Most definitely. And you can always follow me as well at Whom the For. There's an explanation for that, but I'm not going to give it to you. You have to figure it out yourself. And I also stream sometimes as well. I'll do tier listings. I'll talk some college football with you. And I pretend to simulate cleaning things because I can't do it in real life, apparently. So let's go ahead and we'll prepare ourselves for the bowl predictions because I think it's going to be juicy. So, close.
Everyone in the ACC loses, even the ones playing other ACC teams.
It's obviously one of the worst. I mean, I think there's a group of fives that are
hands down worst conference. Worst conference.
The SEC East is the strongest conference in college football.
Bama's dynasty's over.